Hello, everyone. We are excited to join you today and continue on a little bit from our last conversation about building platforms in a panic-free way. At the tail end of that conversation, we touched on the topic of newsletters. And so today we are going to dive a little bit deeper into what it looks like to serve your audience with your newsletter. Debbie, you had some great ideas that you spoke about this last podcast. So maybe you can start us off.
Well, what I would just like to start by saying is that publishers do pay a lot of attention to your mailing list, what's called your mailing list, or the people that have subscribed to your newsletters. In fact, in some cases, you can have a low social media number, but you can have a very good mailing list, and that outweighs it because they put a lot of weight into your mailing list. So, ladies, go ahead and let's just talk about what it looks like to put a newsletter together. What are some of the tips? What are some of the drawbacks? All the newsletter things.
For me, I like to start with the why. Often as agents, when we're talking with potential authors and we bring up the topic of newsletter, it's very quickly that people are like, ugh, because we aren't convinced of the why. And I had to make this journey myself. I'm an agent, but I'm also an author. And the why for me became, if I had this really great idea for a book or Bible study, but it would be a long time in between Bible studies or a long time before a book, then what is it that I am going to say to my audience? Because buy my book gets old. So I went on this journey of what does it look like for me to add value to their lives? So in my life as a speaker and an author, I'm a Bible teacher. So what add value looks like would be to help them to apply the Bible to their lives. So that's why over time, I developed a weekly devotion that I call Happy Monday. So yes, it's my weekly quote newsletter, but it's actually my way of showing up into my audience lives and serving them in a way that is consistent with what I write about. It does not ask them for anything, but it's a way for me to personally connect with them. So that's the why behind my approach and how I also work with my clients on helping them develop a why. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And Barb, I'm wondering, have you noticed that the consistency of that Monday newsletter, if that has helped grow those mailing list numbers?
Absolutely. And I have a funny story. So about a month or so ago, I don't know what happened, but I actually accidentally sent Happy Monday on Sunday. And I didn't realize it until I woke up Sunday morning because it goes out on Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Sunday morning, I'm getting emails from readers and they're like, what day is it? And they were confused because I send it at 6 a.m. every Monday. And many of them, one was upset with me because I messed up her day of the week and she thought she was late for work, y'all.
Oh, boy.
So consistency, apparently it does matter. And then
Yes,
I
yes.
resent it on Monday because I was like, okay, it's weird to resend it. But if I didn't, I knew that there would be women who would email me because that's their rhythm of starting Monday. And so that's the power of consistency.
Awesome.
That's incredible. One of the things that you mentioned really stood out to me when you were talking about that your newsletter is in line with your brand. It is an extension of what you are already putting out there on social media or wherever you're speaking or anything like that. And that was something that personally I had to really consider was what are people coming to me for on social media? And I love to post funny memes. I love to make people laugh. That's part of something that is just a joy to me. And so I wanted my newsletter to feel really fresh and just something that made people laugh. And so one of the things that I focused on was having a format that is reliable and dependable every single time that I pop into their inbox. So I have 3 segments to my newsletter. I have the hopeful, which is kind of a devotional or a thoughtful piece of writing. I have the helpful, which are fun products and or shows that I've watched that I've loved, books that I've read. I include links in there for all of those items that I'm loving. And then I have the funny finds. And the funny finds are my the memes that I've found that week that I saved just for my newsletter people that I think are hilarious. And so every month, I don't do a weekly thing, I do a monthly thing, but every month they know that they're going to get the hopeful, the helpful, and the funny finds from me. And I have gotten such a lovely response from people. I've heard that it's the one newsletter they read and they look forward to opening every month because they know that they can depend on it to be thoughtful, but really lighthearted and fun.
Jen, thank you so much for sharing the format of your newsletter. Oh, that is so helpful. So listeners, if you need to go back and rewind, go back and kind of be inspired. Cynthia, as an agent, I don't know what you were going to say in response, but I'm curious, like, what are the conversations you have when you're receiving pitches about newsletters or your clients? Like, just kind of speak into that to help people who are like, oh, newsletters.
I think a lot that has led up to this moment, even in this podcast, has been very helpful on that end, because part of what we're looking for, what editors are going to be looking for, but also what readers are going to be looking for, is what does this author care about? And that shows up in the newsletter. It often shows up in social media as well, but it specifically shows up in newsletters to show our heart, not just the skill, not just the interests of the author, but also the heart of the author. That will show up in the newsletter. An interesting factoid that comes in regard to novelists who oftentimes feel a little almost embarrassed about where their subscriber numbers show up is that with their subscriber numbers are kind of low, which is very common with a novelist because they don't have a book out yet. If it's a debut novelist, they don't have a book out yet. So what we're finding is, don't panic. Again, we often say that on our podcast, but don't panic about that number. Keep growing it, because those are the people who are going to be the most likely to purchase your book when it comes out. Here's a math factoid, and then I'll get to the other factoid I was going to say. The math factoid is, you can probably count on 10 or maybe 20% of your newsletter subscribers will be automatic purchasers of your book. So that's why the number matters. That the number is how many people, it's souls. So they're not math numbers per se. But when an editor is thinking about it, they will consider that probably 10 or 20% of those subscribers will be automatic purchasers of your book. So if you have 100 subscribers, 10 or 20 of them will buy a book, not 100 of them. So that helps us keep that in perspective, and why the importance of having those subscribers in your community. The other thing is that for fiction, we were finding readers commenting to us and reviewers saying that they felt so guilty because they couldn't get to read all of the newsletters that they'd that they'd signed up for. And their guilt was weighing heavy on their hearts. We asked then, how often do you want to receive a newsletter? What's a good pattern for that from a novelist? And they said, actually, quarterly or monthly would be great for us with novelists, unless they have a new release. And at that time, they'd like to hear more often from the novelist. There will be some novelists who are writing book after book after book, and yes, monthly or even weekly might work for them. Barb's schedule of weekly is perfect for her and her particular method. But know that there are other things. Find your rhythm that works well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie, what do you think?
I just think that whatever you decide to do, it's very important to stay consistent and keep learning and keep paying attention to the feedback that you're getting. Join some newsletters of people that you like to follow and watch what they're doing. Don't compete with them. Don't compare with them, but learn from them, because they might be, several steps ahead of you, and you can learn from them. I've learned something just sitting here today, talking with all of us. I loved the idea that Jen has her newsletter. She has those sections. And so her reader will always know that they're going to get hope, help, and something funny. I mean, that is just brilliant, Jen. I love that. And that is a practical takeaway that anybody can dive deep and think about what are some things I could do that would make my newsletter consistent. I love that Barb starts the beginning of the week with a Monday devotional for her people. And so I'm listening to this and I'm thinking of some of the authors that I represent that maybe are counselors or life coaches and that kind of thing. And maybe to get people to be in their new newsletter is to have a giveaway that is some kind of handout that is practical helps to something. And maybe their regular newsletter is, something again that is practical helps, kind of like in the life coaching format, so that their people would know what to expect. They would look forward to getting it. I think that sometimes that less might be more. I do subscribe to Barb's and I loved getting it. So it's not too much for me, because what she's starting out my week, right? Like there is a whole lane with that. I'm starting my week out with Barb, and I love that. But the thing is for some people, like what you said, Cynthia, like with a novelist, like they don't have to do it as often. We don't have to think that it has to be every week or bi-weekly or even every month. We can figure out like what might be right for the people and the audience that we're trying to serve. I think it's a lot of good information here.
The other thing, go ahead, Barb.
Well, and I was going to say, when I was studying and learning how to do this, because I didn't know how, and when I'm talking with my clients who are new, part of studying other folks out there who are in your lane is being able to see their frequency, but also keeping in mind that where they're at now, they haven't always been there.
Yes.
I didn't always do Happy Monday every single week. When I got started, it was once a month. And I think it was called Fancy Pants, because it was a different season of my life as an author. And so I would say for those who are kind of wrestling with this, or maybe you've had starts and stops, this is an evolving way of serving your audience. So you get to try things, you get to explore things, you get to have seasons. But as we've talked about, we want to make it predictable and we want to make it consistent. So don't hold yourself to either this perfectionistic attitude, because that feels self-defeating, but also recognize that you can make changes and grow.
Yeah, I think we all need a mug with the phrase on it that Debbie said: don't compete, don't compare, but learn.
And I think too that when we look at this, that we have to remember, this is so important. Platform isn't built so that we could shine. It's so that we can serve. So if we switch to the serving mentality, a lot of the panic and stress and hassle of all of this is going to go away, because most of us, especially in this Christian space of ministry and Christian publishing, we want to serve our readers. That's why we're doing this. And so, but in the world that we live in, platform is all about shining. The influencers are shining, they're getting followers, and they're the star. We don't want to be the star. We want to be the servant that is providing a resource, providing something funny, providing a happy Monday, providing something for our people.
So you guys, as I have been listening to all of you and we've been talking about this, I have been kind of taking some notes on what are the takeaways from this conversation that I think our listeners would want to hold on to. And there was so much here. Barb talked about the why. So knowing your why of why you were writing a newsletter and how important that is both to your readers and to prospective editors as they look at your platform, and how much of a part your email subscriber list plays into that. asking how you can add value into your readers' lives, because we all know we're all busy. None of us have just ultimate amounts of free time to go through our inboxes. So you want to make sure that the time that you are taking from your reader is adding something to their lives and it's something of value. You want to stay consistent in how you are writing and when you are writing your newsletter. That's important as well, whether you're doing it once a week or once a month or quarterly, if you are a novelist. And Cynthia had the incredible stat that 10 to 20% of your email subscribers will make a purchase. And so it's important to know that you could have a very large number of subscribers, but about 10 to 20% of those are going to purchase. The other side to that is editors looking at that and doing that math in their head and knowing that those are pretty sure sales on that side. So that's an upside for sure to having an email list. It can be evolving. So it's not something that is written in stone. If something's not working and your readers are not resonating with what you're doing, then you can absolutely kind of change and shift along the way. Barb is no longer writing fancy pants. And so
Darn, I want a copy of that.
I kind of am like, can you just do like one thing like for us?
I had the best logo. It was the most funky pants out there. Fancy pants.
Oh, I need just a single edition of that, just brought back for old time's sake. Anyway, thank you, dear listeners, for listening to us once again on the Books and Such podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast through iTunes so you don't miss a future episode. We hope that all of us are serving you, as we so love to talk about a servant's heart. That is our heart here at Books and Such, to serve you, our listener, to serve our clients well, and the writing community at large. And we're just so glad that you're with us. See you next time.